Hello and welcome to Career Talk. I'm Lee Hopwood, CEO at the CCMA and host of this live show where I chat with contact centre professionals to find out about their career journeys so far. And we do this so that we can hopefully bring some inspiration to those working in the industry and also those that might be thinking about coming into the industry and wondering, is there a viable career working in a contact centre? And yes is the really short answer. There are loads of career opportunities in our sector. And joining me today is the lovely Carrie Parker, who is the Global Head of Continuous Improvement at Freshfields. And Freshfields is one of the world's largest law firms, and then she's going to tell us about that in a moment. But she is also a judge on the UK National Contact Centre Awards and the European Contact Centre and Customer Service Awards. Hi, Carrie.
Hi, Lee. Thank you for having me.
An absolute pleasure. So I'm going to start with the awards. What's it like judging on these two awards programs?
Amazing. I am in my 11th year this year, which is fantastic. The two words that always spring to mind is it's an absolute honour to be asked year on year. It's an honour and a privilege to see the talent, be part of their journey, but it's the responsibility of telling their story and their successes and pulling that out. And I always feel like I'm part of their journey going forward, especially, doing it year on year. I've started to see some of the same finalists coming through and to see that growth. And as judges, we offer feedback sometimes, what's great, what could they do a little bit differently or work on. And where you see somebody has read that and taken that and come back stronger, because every year I think we can't get any better. It's just phenomenal to see the best of the best.
And it's so rewarding, isn't it? The whole awards program is so rewarding. And tell us a little bit about Freshfields. So Freshfields is a law firm, and tell us a little bit more about it.
Okay, so Freshfield Brookhouse Derringer is one of the oldest elite law firms in the world. It has a long-standing track record of successfully supporting the world's leading national, multinational corporations, governments, financial institutions, and we work on groundbreaking or business-critical mandates. We consist of more than 2,800 lawyers. They deliver results across 28 offices worldwide. But what's interesting is we work alongside advice from leading local firms. So if we're in an area and we may not have a main office there, we will work with the best of the best in those local areas. We are 275 years old, so we're very steeped in heritage and in history. And it's a fantastic place to work.
And so you're Global Head of Continuous Improvement. What does that mean, especially in the context of Freshfields?
It's slightly different. So I personally define, lead and own the continuous improvement strategy. I define the methodology and capability for the firm. That covers both business and legal. I'm not from a law background. It requires me to work closely with all different levels. That might be partners, it could be senior leaders, or functional heads. I work as part of a global transformation change management area. And we work to design and agree on specific goals, just really supporting measurable improvements. And that might be legal efficiency, client services, or financial gains within the firm. I'm responsible for the continuous improvement team. We are mainly UK based, but we're currently going global as we open our new shared service. A key role for me is building that capability. It's how we support the delivery of those improvements. And again, we do a mixed bag of, it could be efficiency, it could be customer service, it could be people frustrations that we remove.
And your career is grounded in this transformation, this continuous improvement. And so I can't wait to hear that progress and how you got into that and where you got to today. But before we do, you said I'm allowed to ask you about this. You've had a pretty traumatic time over the last few months since we met. So we met when we were when I was observing the judging, and yes, I was there watching you on judging on the X's back in November, and oh my goodness, we had a great laugh. But and just traveling around in Europe. But since then, you've had a really tough time. And before we went live, we talked about how that experience will change how you think back about your career compared to had we had that chat back in November. So tell us what's happened.
So on the back of our European road trip, which was phenomenal, I'm sure we'll get onto points of that later in the chat. I came back probably like everybody else, experienced this cold and flu virus that seemed to go around, but I sort of had a chest and cold effects from, I would say, late October, November. I remember being at the November Awards and really struggling to speak. And I was presenting. Instead of hitting the gin, I was on, boiling water. It came to a head just literally Christmas week. I couldn't shake this bug. By that point, I just thought I'd got tonsillitis or this cold and flu virus. Ended up going into hospital, just 111 urgent care, and I would say within a matter of about an hour, we went from 0 to full on. Blood test picked up that potentially I had blood clots, quite serious blood clots. My heart rate was quite low at that point. Was it fighting a virus? We didn't know. I progressively got worse throughout the night. So I'd literally gone to A&E, saying to my husband, I'll see you shortly, and ended up in resus Christmas Eve with nothing working and my heart slowing right down to the point where it was, there's nothing really we can do at this point. But what had become apparent was, it wasn't that there were blood clots. I caught COVID, and it was so severe. It was the impact of COVID that was slowing the heart right down. And ironically, as I got through Christmas Day and into Boxing Day, and I went through that period, and COVID started to go from my body, and I became COVID negative. My heart rate started to come back up, but at that point, I wasn't sure whether I'd still have blood clots. Was the blood clots? Potentially I was being tasked to, this could be life-changing, you're going to have to see a cardiologist. We're not sure what the effects are, because I was still incredibly ill, incredibly fatigued. I could barely talk, incredibly chesty. I sounded like I'd got bronchitis, but I hadn't. It was all COVID related. So between then and now, I've gone for a succession of cardiologists, hospital appointments, 1,000 blood tests going on, lots of medication. I'm absolutely coming out the other end for that. But for that period, I think of late December going through to January, I didn't know if I was going to end up with, life-changing conditions. I have friends who have got life-changing conditions, and I completely, really respect them in a different way. But to go back to your point of, had we had this conversation in November, I'd have been quite strategic, professional answers. I really have looked at life differently, because I came home Christmas Eve thinking, am I going to wake up Christmas Day? Because what I said to the hospital was, I'll discharge, because if I'm going to die, then I want to do it at home on Christmas. I don't want to be in hospital for Christmas, because there was nothing they could do for me other than monitor me. I mean, I've come out the other side now, but I have looked back at life, and certain things that maybe I didn't appreciate were great achievements and I should have been proud of, especially younger Carrie, which I'm now incredibly proud of. So yeah, you've probably got a different version than definitely you would have had November.
And I mean, wow, what you've been through and the experience that you've had. And first of all, I'm so pleased that you've pulled through. And I know you're now under the watchful eye of the doctors, and you're in a much better place. But and you've made the hairs on my arm stand up talking through that. But it's really interesting how, and for those watching, just thinking about what she's been through, what Carrie has been through, and therefore how she reflects on her career. And I think that's going to be more inspirational, because you, like you say, your answers are not necessarily stock answers. They are because this is actually now how I'm reflecting and feeling and wish I'd done, or I'm pleased that I've done. So let's take it back to the beginning. I want to go back to, I want to say school, I want to say university. Where did it all start? Where did your career begin?
It's probably, if we go right back to the beginning, a really slightly unconventional story. You know, I didn't go to university, and that's been a great achievement, because I would probably have skimmed over that. And you know, my stock answer used to be, I went to the same university as Princess Anne, because I didn't go to one, and I was, you know, not ashamed of that, but I was an 80s child. I'd seen my brother go to university. He's incredibly academic. And I saw the financial impact of my parents going through a recession, and I thought, I can't put them through this, because potentially I will struggle at university. And actually, the minute I sort of touched on that, that was taking off the table. But then it was, well, what are you going to do with your life? I was more vocational, really good at sports, very organised. And my father signed me up for a hairdressing and beauty therapy course, which I had no desire to do, but I was, you know, a young 16-year-old who did exactly what her father told her to do. I was a good girl. And I went, and I would say I wasn't bad at it, but I didn't enjoy it until we got to the salon management, the business management piece. And at that point, there wasn't PowerPoint and things like that. And, you know, we had to do a presentation on managing a business. And I came in with a 3D model. I basically built a salon up from ground. I'd done footfalls. I'd done cost projections. I'd done improvements over 2 years of how I could get marginal gains. And the tutor sat down and she said, you probably have a mediocre career in a hairdressing and beauty therapy, but you'll be phenomenal if you go into business, or if you decide to manage people, you'll be phenomenal. And I would say that was the start, because it was, I didn't understand my purpose, but I knew what my passion was, and eventually that passion would lead me to my purpose. But if we skim over coming out of college there with my hairdressing and beauty therapy qualifications, thinking I never want to cut hair again. But I persuaded my father to buy me a salon. And he just looked at me with one eye and said, okay, but I want the money back in 12 months. I'm giving you a 12-month goal. Give me my investment back. And that was it. I actually never cut hair in that salon, but I flipped it. I ended up improving it. And within 6 months, I'd sold it for a profit. And I suppose that was the start of the career I've got now, because I knew I had to move away from the MVQs I got, because they were never going to serve me purpose. And it was a sister-in-law who was working at Great Universal Stores, and that was my first foray into a contact centre role. And she recommended me, and I was successfully interviewing. I went in as an advisor, worked my way up to a new customer service advisor, and they did a lot of third-party business. And I saw an opportunity for management, and I thought, do you know what, I'm going to have a go at that. And I applied, I got the interview, and I did a secondment managing third-party business and probably never looked back. I never went back as an advisor, but I still went back and worked on the phones from time to time, because I wanted to still understand what that front line faced and the challenges and frustration, so that I could continue to evolve as a better manager. And that was it. I worked in contact centres. From there, I moved to debt collecting. I met some great people. And within that, that really honed me in on probably the business management in terms of, return on investment, profit and loss, working for third party and understanding the cost to serve model of a business and how we should run and getting it right first time. And this is where it gets a little bit unconventional. I was a distressed customer of a global telecom. I had a great customer experience with them, but something went wrong, and it was really frustrating how it had gone wrong and reoccurred. And I wrote a complaint letter, and it didn't make it through the cracks. I didn't get a response. And then I contacted them with another, follow-up to the complaint. I didn't get a response. And that was probably the worst thing for me to ignore. I'm not a girl who likes to be ignored. And I saw a role being advertised for a team manager role. And I went to the assessment centre with a view to, well, let's see, if you're not going to come to me to fix it, I'm actually going to come to you and fix it. Got the role, went to working business service management, and basically worked with some great business improvement people. I was an operational team manager, but worked with some great people to build an algorithm looking at distressed customers, how we proactively intervene, so that actually, if their order went off track, they never knew it went. We were the ghosts in the background. Thinking I'd fix my problem and stay there 6 weeks, and I actually ended up being at that telecoms, which is the bulk of my contact centre career, for probably 12, 13 years.
So when did you work on that algorithm project, doing that in continuous improvement, all the way back then? When was that? Because that sounds like it might have been a little bit before its time.
I think it goes back to, you're taking me back now to when I went to work there. So you're probably looking around 2009, 2010. And I didn't know there was business improvement teams. What I had then, I had a great centre manager, and we're still friends now, and she really believed in me. And I would say she was really patient with me. Like, where are you today? Because I'm still managing the team, or I've gone to this centre because I want to see how they do it. She was really great. But I think I just had the determination of, we have to do a better job for our customer. And one of the things I think through being a parent is, I might be the bill payer, but then my children was quite young, especially when my daughter became a teenager and social media hit at that point. For me, it was around, she's your user and she's your future customer. I'm just a bill payer at the moment. I don't really use it. So at the time of being that distressed customer, I kept thinking, if this was a little old lady, how can we stop that? Because when you're not being heard, the silence is deafening, and that's how I always feel. So, but as I say, I thought I'd be there 6 weeks, and I was there, I think, 13 years in the end, and absolutely loved it and worked with some great people, which I think we will get onto later in the career. And then from there, 4 years tomorrow, I did think it was a joke when Freshfields offered, took me in on April Fool's Day. I joined Freshfields, as the senior manager for continuous improvement, leading a team, and taking continuous improvement. Just to step back, coming at ops manager at Global Comms, worked my way into business improvement, because once I delivered that, I got an appetite for it. Then found continuous improvement, which is slightly different. For those who don't know, business improvement and transformation is more top down, from a strategy led. Continuous improvement is bottom up, so really working with those in the cold face, doing the job, and working collaboratively, so they're part of the change, and we go upwards to deliver either to business strategies, or it could be a customer strategy, or it could just be improving some of the people experience of removing some of the heavy transactions and giving them the breathing space to take on more work and more doing more with what we've got, I always say, because we've got some great talent. So when continuous improvement found me, I knew I'd found my tribe. Absolutely knew I found my tribe. I think a manager once said, "You're great, but you're in the wrong job. CI is the home for you," and it was. And I wanted to know, could I do it in an environment that I didn't know, with the toolbox that I got, and being successful. And looking back, because I look back on it differently now because of being ill, I'm really proud. I'm really proud of where I've evolved from, and where I've evolved to, and I've got more to go yet. I'm not there yet.
Oh, there's no doubt you're not there yet. I have no doubt about that at all. And it's really interesting how you started to say that when you reflect back, and what has been your greatest achievement before BT and since BT?
Before BT, Actually, right back to the start, my greatest achievement, I think, was getting a role in a contact centre, being born with a speech impediment. Before I had major surgery across the throat, I had to learn to speak again. I developed this lisp, and I was, believe it or not, and this will surprise you, painfully shy. I wouldn't speak to anybody. I went through primary school, and I just used to nod. I wouldn't speak at all. And I went to high school. My mum said, "You're going to have to learn to talk to people," because all the teachers say she doesn't say a word at all. I was very self-conscious.
I can't believe.
I know, having met me. Pre-Beyonce, I went to high school and I created my own Sasha Fierce. I created this outward personality who was, I like sports, but I pushed myself to be captain of sports. I'd be a prefect. I'd be involved in every club going, librarian, you name it. I was the first hand up. Yes, I'll do that. Because I thought if I volunteer, I can control the environment and I can be comfortable with it. And I've sort of morphed into this personality. But there are times when I do go quiet when I'm not so sure. But I would say pre-work, that was it. That was huge because I had a lovely big brother who used to answer everything for me because he knew I didn't want to talk to anybody because I was so self-conscious. Because I get endings on words a little bit mixed up sometimes. As I said, I developed a lisp post-surgery that kind of I didn't sound like myself. And then, so post-BT, I've got to say it is, it's this role now. To transform a 275-year plus law firm that, as I've said, is steeped in heritage, steeped in history, and the legal world is very new to continuous improvement, very, very new. But I'm getting to a point where strategic goals are focused on improvement. We're using the language of data to drive the fundamentals, and we're creating a really high-performing continuous improvement culture. And I've got some great sponsors, and the firm is really embracing it. It's a great legacy, and it's a great environment to be in because I'm working with the best of the best in the legal industry, but also in business services. We employ the best of the best, and I've got faith in me. I've got this great opportunity to evolve it even more, and we're breaking boundaries. Previously, law firms do it very project management, very business improvement. We've ripped up the copybook, and Freshfields have taken a leap of faith with me, and we're on a great ride together.
It's so good to hear you talking about how you are ripping up the copybook. You are doing things differently. You are pushing boundaries. You are making change happen, and it's such a common thread through all the people that I talk to in this sector is that being able to make change, being able to make a difference, and part of that is obviously driven by changing business, changing customer behaviours, changing colleague behaviours. And talking of colleagues, and maybe it's colleagues, maybe it's someone else, but who has, you've been through tremendous challenges throughout your life. Who has really inspired you along the way?
I'd say my inspiration started when I joined the telecoms because I really learned management then. I learned my craft, my skill, my Lean Six Sigma history. But bearing in mind, I went in as an operational manager, so I'd never come across that world. So I've had lots of great managers I've been fortunate to work for. I've had some shockers, and they've taught me how not to manage a team or how not to motivate people. But there's probably four I would touch on who've inspired me, and it's not the Stephen Coveys of the world or etc. It's four great managers, and number one at the start of my career was a guy called Neil Ward, who was tough senior leader. And I remember he said to me when I did that first, I came in as a distressed customer and delivered. He said, "You will be a fantastic operational manager, but you'll never get a green belt. So Lean Six Sigma qualification to move into business improvement or continuous improvement. I've seen the best. You'll not get there." And I was like, "Well, I'm going to do it. I'm absolutely going to do it." And I negotiated. What I didn't realize was he saw the raw talent and was motivating me to do more. So I've got to say, this career, the start of this great career I've had, I would shake his hand and say, thanks, Neil, that, I didn't see you at the time. I just thought, you don't believe in me. And he did. I think the midpoint, when I sort of was in business improvement, but coming out of that to continuous improvement, are two phenomenal managers. Ollie Barner, I'm still friends with him now. He's amazing. Fantastic people, role model. And that's important about how you are, integrity as a person, but as a manager. And he taught me to be passionate, and that actually it's all right to be passionate and a little bit emotional because you care, as long as you've got the fundamentals and the basics in place, be it for my continuous improvement world. If you don't have a good foundation to build comms, change, training, benefits case off, then you won't sustain it for the future. And he really taught me about those fundamentals. But he said, unlock your passion. And he taught me how to take people on a journey with me, which you can give people the skills to deliver change and deliver operational efficiency. But if you can't get them to buy in with hearts and minds, then you'll never get them there. And he taught me that and helped me nurture and be confident to do that. And then when I towards the end of my time with BT, David McKenzie, I went to work with him. In fact, my father literally just died, and he was, I've got this great role, come and work for me. And I was a little bit unsure. And actually, it was the last conversation with my dad where my dad said, he sounds great, that world I think you'll be great in, do it. And so I sort of did it because it was the last conversation with my dad. He died that evening, to be exact, which is sad but not. David McKenzie introduced me to supply chain. And for those who don't understand supply chain, it is the absolutely beating heart of any firm. So in telecoms, it's the beating heart. It's where every screw goes out, every piece of equipment, pick, pack, dispatch. It's a full end-to-end. For a geek like me who's into Lean, Six Sigma, so, removing variation, identifying, are we doing the right thing at the right time, and change management, it is a playground. But what he inspired me to be over the years I worked for him was to be bold and be brave, and that it's okay to fail, and failure is good and you can learn from it and just dust off and go. But he gave me a blank canvas to do all that, and I wouldn't be here now without that and that confidence he gave me at a time where, my father had died within hours. My mum had had terminal cancer diagnosed, and we were going into end of life care. Yet I was still delivering phenomenal things. So, and then full circle, I would say Nikki, now my current manager, she's enabling me to achieve and I suppose deliver it in a really complex arena. I've said the legal world is new to it, but what she's doing is she's fantastic in understanding me, what I do, and really enabling me to be bold in my delivery.
It's really interesting that all four of those people sound like they've really guided you. You're someone of your own mind, very, very determined, but it sounds like they've guided you and almost just kind of made sure that you're on this path and you're not veering off, and it sounds like they've really guided you. So I have to ask, was it one of them or someone else that gave you the best advice you've ever had?
Someone else.
What was that advice?
So the best two pieces of advice I've had, the best one probably came from my mum, which was everything looks different in 28 days. So if you're on a high, enjoy the high, because you're probably going to peak off that in 28 days. But if you're up against it and you feel like I'm either overwhelmed or I'm really not enjoying what I'm doing at the moment, I say this to my team, in 28 days, it's all going to look different. This time next month, it will be different. So that is a great piece of advice. The second, I actually have a sticker on my laptop, which is, how do you know? How do you know that that's a problem? How do you know that that's going to solve it? How do you know you're not having a great day and you didn't really understand it?
How do you know? Oh, I like that. Do you know what? There's so many other questions I want to ask you. There really is, but I'm conscious that we're close to time. But there are three questions that I really want to ask you.
Go for it.
So the first is, do you prefer to drive in the UK or in Europe?
So I bought a new car this week. So I have to say it's a beautiful supercar. So I would say really I should go to UK. But having had you as my co-pilot in Europe and the hashtag tight as we bomb down the street, if you're going to sit him as my co-pilot, then we'll go Europe.
It was, we did have a bit of a laugh, realising that we needed to drive on the other side of the road when we were in Europe. So yes, it was, I don't think I've laughed that much for quite some time. It was a joy being your co-pilot. Now my next question, do you prefer a night out dancing or a night in front of the TV?
So anybody who follows me on LinkedIn will know that I'm a competitive cheerleader and I'm part of a British squad. So I will always say the dancing shoes are on and it's a night out dancing. With pom-poms sometimes.
It had to be. I just love the fact that you're a cheerleader. I just love that. And on the back of all of that, where in the world would you like to travel to?
So I would say it's less about the places, but more about the people that I go with. So as long as there's love, laughter, and some consumption of pint gin, I could be anywhere in the world and absolutely loving it, loving life. So the world's my oyster, but it's got to have great people in it.
Oh, absolutely. And do you know what? I don't normally finish with another question. I am going to throw this at you. Having been through what you've been through in recent months and having an opportunity to also reflect on your career, your life, one piece of advice that you would give anyone that's listening today?
Trust your gut instinct. That's my biggest look back of, if I look at young Carrie all the way through to now, I've self-doubted, imposter syndrome as we all have. I've always gone back to that original gut instinct or that original thought. So it is, I would say to everybody, you're amazing, you're great, trust your gut.
Carrie, thank you so much. You have been absolutely amazing. I'm so pleased that you were able to join me today and looking forward to seeing where you go and what change you bring in your world.
Fantastic. Thank you. I appreciate it, Lee.
Thank you so much. And hey, you can keep watching this over and over again. You can watch previous editions of Career Talk on the CCMA website, ccma.org.uk. And for now, I shall see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.